Yeah, that last point is equally important. As we know, finally block gets executed irrespective of whether exception is there or not. But in which case final block does not execute. So system.exit is called inside try, catch, or finally. You know, system.exit means you kill JVM. So it's all over. So there's no question of finally block will execute after that. No. So system.exit is called inside try, catch, or finally. And if any exception gets raised in a finally, which you are not handled, the remaining part of the finally will not execute, obviously. If any unhandled exception comes in finally, the remaining statements of finally will not execute.
मीन्स सर अभी फाइनली में अगर हम लोग ये लिखते हैं नंबर डिवाइड बाय 0 तो वो वर्कआउट नहीं होता सर.
हाँ, वहां पे हैंडल नहीं किया है सपोज. अगेन फाइनली में भी ट्राई कैच लिख सकते हैं. ओके, बट वहां पे नहीं किया है सपोज, तो वहां पे एग्जीक्यूशन अबॉर्ट होगा. तो वॉट एवर स्टेटमेंट्स यू रिटर्न आफ्टर दैट नंबर डिवाइड बाय 0, so those statements will not execute.
Okay.
So these two things are important, in which case final block does not get executed.
So can we provide generic catch block after final?
No. Try catch finally. After finally, catch never comes. After finally, catch never comes. Within finally, you can write try catch. Okay. Now there is one folder in exception handling, more about finally. More about finally. And there are 6 examples with their flow. Flow means information about the flow. Okay. Let's see the code. Look at the code. Aram se. Public class demo1 void accept int k. Public class demo1 void accept int k. Some condition is written there. If k less than is equal to 0, throw new runtime exception. I told you in the beginning that exception can be handled or raised. Exception can be handled or raised. How to handle that exception? Already we have seen in various examples try catch. Along with try catch, you write finally also sometimes. How do we raise the exception? First of all, exception can be raised by JVM or code. Example 1 to example 5 or 6 or 7, whatever. All those examples which we saw, in those examples, exception got raised by JVM. But I told you exception can be raised by JVM or code. Code means developer, means Java program. So this is our first example where you can see how to raise an exception. How to raise an exception. तो यहाँ पे कोड ऐसा है that some number will be passed to k, but then logic is written if that number is less than is equal to 0, throw new runtime exception. Now this is something called as raising an exception. So how do you raise the exception? It's a two-step process. First, you create object of that exception. First, you create object of that exception class, and then you say throw. When you say throw, where do you throw? You throw at the caller. That means the caller program which calls except. Okay, so throw new runtime exception. That is the way you raise an exception. So suppose if I ask you to raise file not found exception, how will you write that? Throw new file not found exception. SQL exception, throw new SQL exception. So you have to create object first and then say throw. When you say throw, you are actually throwing to the caller. Okay, look at display. Look at display. What does display do? Display has got end k. Display calls accept. Display calls accept. Display has returned try catch finally. Display has returned try catch finally. Catch में exception है, which is fair enough to catch any exception. Then you can see here that return 1, return 2, return 3. Return statements are there in try, catch, and finally. In try, you are calling accept. So in try we write possible statement which might cause exception. So we are calling accept. So in case accept throws the exception, we are ready to handle it. If accept does not throw the exception, is well and good. Our other part of the statements will execute. Main creates object of demo and calls display. Calls display by passing 5. Display will call accept by passing same 5. So here, first of all, let us discuss call stack. Call stack. So here we have main. And display one calls accept. Display one calls accept. Now this call stack is very, very important to understand that throw. Okay. So how exactly it works? Main calls display by passing 5. That 5 goes to K. Display calls accept by passing that 5. That 5 goes to K. Is 5 less than is equal to 0? No. No. So that means what? Control should come here. No exception. So no catch. It will execute the next statement. What is written over there? Return 1. Return 1. Okay, return 1. Because return type is integer, return 1. Return type is int, return 1. Now we understand that there's no catch because no exception. But finally always executes. Finally में लिखा है return 3. So return is always 1. You can't return more than 1 values. So whether 1 will be returned or 3 will be returned.
3. 1.
1 will be returned or 3 will be returned.
3. 1. 1. 1. 1.
1 will be written. Sir, if the condition will be true, then it will be 1 and else it will be 3.
Nahi,
Will be 2.
the thing is that now exception is not there. Huh? Exception is not there, so we know very well that this line will execute.
Yes.
But वो line
Sir,
है return 1.
Return 1 and
In the
return 3 both.
Both.
Return 3.
अच्छा
Both.
अच्छा हाँ
अच्छा नहीं sir, one
and
अभी
then
Only
finally
one.
gets
Only
executed
one.
at
One,
the
sir.
end.
Both 1 and 3.
One, sir.
Only one, sir.
only one
Finally
वो
gets
calls
executed
call
always.
stack की वजह से
Yeah.
control will again go to the calling function, one assign होगा फिर बाद में finally होगा.
It return 1 and 3.
ओके ओके ठीक है, तो अभी 1 और 3 के बीच में क्लैश है, बराबर. अभी डिस्कस करते हैं दूसरा सिनेरियो. -5. If I call -5, if I pass -5 goes to k. Same -5 goes to accept. Same -5 goes to accept. वहां पे -5 less than is equal to 0. Exception. Now here first what will happen? First runtime exception का object will be created and then throw where? Caller. Who is the caller of accept? Display. So that means control will come here, but it will skip this and it will go to catch. Catch में क्या लिखा है? Return 2. This line will be skipped because exception है यहाँ पे. तो catch में लिखा है return 2, but after catch finally will be called. तो final में लिखा है return 3. तो यहाँ पे question है whether return 2 or 3. Whether return 2 or 3.
2 and 3. 2 and 3 both.
Only
2 and 3.
As soon as it
Okay, ठीक है. I will show you output of both. Both means first I will show you output of 5. Then I will show you output of -5. Okay. Java demo 1. 5 का आउटपुट आया 3. अभी -5.
3 आएगा.
3 आएगा.
-5 का एक्सेप्शन प्रिंट होगा. एक्सेप्शन प्रिंट नहीं करे तो प्रिंट नहीं हो रहा है, बट -5 में भी 3. -5 में भी 3. Now here you have to understand one very important thing, that is one is this code is written just for an observation, observe करने के लिए. Actually we will never write such a code. Such a code इसमें प्रॉब्लम क्या है? अच्छा खासा तो है. प्रॉब्लम ये है you are returning from try, from catch, from finally. ऐसे नहीं करना है कभी. क्यों किया यहाँ पे? Just for observation. What happens? You know what? Compiler knows that finally block always executes. और finally में आपने return लिखा है and try catch में भी return लिखा है. So what compiler does? Compiler removes return statements from try and catch. So when code goes for execution, that code contains finally ka return only. So now we will say what is the use of writing try and catch me return? That was just for observation. What happens? So compiler removes return statement from both try and catch, and compiler keeps only one return. So what happens? यहाँ पे 5 पास किया, 5 किया तो no exception, control comes to finally return 3. -5 किया तो exception, control comes to catch and then finally return 3. So demo 1 में the point is compiler removes return statements from both try and catch. Look at that example. फॉन्ट छोटा करो.
सर फाइनली हटा दे तो.
हाँ है आगे स्टेटमेंट एग्जाम्पल है.